Welcome back to the world's cleanest garage, where I've had organizational engineers from Germany and Japan email me on my tactics to keeping this garage working so efficiently. Anyways, in today's build, what we're going to be working on is some drawers and some cabinets for my very, very special van. This is no ordinary van, you see. I actually specially imported this van. Well, I didn't import it. I asked my father-in-law, who's got someone in Japan, to import it for me. And the reason why, it's just a Toyota Hiace, all right? We can buy those here in Australia. However, this one's all-wheel drive. See, all the ones they sell in Australia come with rear-wheel drive, and I've had a rear-wheel drive Hiace before, and anyone who has one will know how embarrassing it is when you get bogged in basically wet grass, because the traction that you get if you don't have any weight in the back is, yeah, basically close to zero. So I got this one, which comes with all-wheel drive, and I'm super excited to drive around on it. And here I am building my van drawers for it. So essentially, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having some drawers for my tools, my small tools and my power tools, and then we're going to be building some drawers for my bits boxes or my compartment, screw boxes, whatever you call them in whichever part of the world you live in. And drawers is, for anyone who's built them, is not the most fun thing. It's really, really tedious. There's a lot of pieces that you got to put together, but we'll go through all of that. So generally, the way I start these projects is I'll measure the space that I've got, and then using that space, I will try and come up with the most efficient and effective design for it. So I will basically, I'm pretty old school. I don't really use any computer aided designs, any CAD programs. I just basically draw it down on a piece of paper and even draw a cut list up on a piece of paper, so I know exactly what pieces I need to cut, and I know exactly how many pieces of plywood I need to get. Speaking of plywood, the material we're using is 12 mil plywood in this one. I tried to find caravan plywood for this project because I really wanted to keep the weight down, but I actually couldn't source any at this time. So we've just gone with the regular 12 mil construction plywood, which is very strong for its thick. Essentially, what we're doing here is we're building the frames that's going to hold the cabinet doors and the drawers. Um, so I'm building two. They're going to be facing each other in the van, one on either side of the van. One's going to have the drawers for the all the screw boxes in it, and then the other one's going to have the drawers for all the tools. And they're both going to have a cabinet which opens on the top compartment there. So essentially, how I put these together is I use three fixings. It seems like overkill, but I really wanted to make sure that these weren't going to come apart because the van is constantly moving and rattling and vibrating. So I didn't want to risk that potential of these falling apart. So the way I normally put them together is glue, brad nail, and then screws. Here you can see I've got the plywood, just cutting up the strips here. Ignore the melamine boxes. That's another project that I was working on. But yeah, basically what I'm doing is the drawer slides here, and these are the thin drawer slides. I can tell these ones are for the screw boxes. So I had to painstakingly cut what felt like 1,000 of these up. But anyways, had to do what you got to do. Then I generally like to cut these on the table saw just because of how quick and efficient it is. So I rip them up on the table saw, then go to the drop saw and just put a stop block on there and just cut them all to the desired length. And then I'll bring them over to the assembly table, glue them up, brad nail them up, and then I'll add some screws later on. One really cool feature from this van from Japan is that they actually have three seats in the back as well. It seems like it was something that they do, or that's common in Japan, but again, they don't do that here in Australia. So I really like the way they've done it. Essentially, what it is, it's like a three-seater couch with seat belts on it, and then when you don't want to use it, you can essentially just sort of fold it up into the engine compartment, sort of up against the engine compartment area, and you can get that extra real estate back. So you'll see how I sort of accommodate that, and I didn't really want to lose that feature in the van. So here what I'm doing is I'm adding a couple of coats of black exterior house paint which I had left over, so it didn't cost me anything. And essentially, this really makes the whole thing look like it was made in a factory. Especially because here, as you can see, I got some edging just from our local hardware store Bunnings, and yeah, it's pretty easy. All you do is you just iron it on. As you can see, I'm ironing it on there, and then you just take a Stanley knife and you just trim off the excess, or you can use a file, or however you do it. I guess you just sort of take your time with it and make it look good. Once I had finished with the edging, I got onto the drawer slides, and if you put drawer slides in before, you'll know that they can be quite a bit finicky. So this is where you need to make your drawer slides the exact measurement. If you've made them a little bit too thick, even 1 mil too thick, your drawer slides essentially won't work well. They won't fit in there at all, and it'll sort of bind up the drawers. So you have to make it exactly the right width so that it fits in there perfectly. You can add shims if you made them a bit small, but again, you sort of just aim for that perfection so that you don't have to muck around with it. So after we finish the drawers here, we get started on the floor for the cabinets. So I take this 18mm MDF here, and I go and measure up the floor of the van, make sure all my measurements are correct, and then I essentially just have to cut out the wheel arches, which sort of stick out, so we have to kind of work around them. So I just take a jigsaw, mark them out on the board, and then cut them. Actually, I cut the length of it with the track saw, and then I just do the curves with the jigsaw. And once I did that, I took the trim router and put a round over edge on it so that it could look nice. And then I took the same exterior black paint as before, and I put 2 coats on it, making sure to get the edges as well, because MDF is extremely absorbent, so if you spill anything, you kind of don't want that water to be sucked into it. Once I finished with the black paint, I took a floor, what's it called, like a floor finish. So it's a very hard wearing surface, and I finished the board with that, with 2 coats of that floor finish. And I brought it in here, and then we screwed it down just using 4 screws into the chassis, or into the floor of the van. Obviously, before I screwed those in, I checked underneath the van to make sure that I wasn't going to hit like a fuel line or anything like that. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not going to screw into anything important underneath there. As you can see, I've attempted to bring in one of the cabinets and it didn't really fit. So you can see me here, I'm sort of cutting out a triangle from the back corner of it. That was something that I knew was going to impede, but I sort of didn't really know how to design around it. So I sort of just built it as I normally would and knew that I was going to have to trim some off. And that worked well. So I just essentially copied the same thing on the second one, and then it fit perfectly. And now I'm just fitting off the 2 side cabinets that go on the ends here, which again needed just a little bit of sanding off on the corners here to fit in there properly. So once I finished doing that, I got started on building the drawers for the tools, or for the, I guess, the bigger drawers, I guess. So these drawers are being made for the power tools and for, my hand tools, pliers and things like that. So I cut up some dividers and I made sure to add them in there, because the bad thing about having really big drawers is that when you put a lot of small things in there, they sort of just get all jumbled up. And next, I'm doing probably my favorite part, which, well, something that turned out to be my favorite part was you just take a bit of foam. These are just old, jigsaw mats. I just put my power tools on them and then I trace them out and then I cut them out with a jigsaw. And they really just look really cool there in the end. So I quite like that. It was really low effort kind of task to do that brought, a lot of value to my drawers, I felt. So here I just brought them over. I didn't really want to do all this in the garage just because carrying all of this by myself would have been too heavy. So I decided to build the carcasses, put them in the van, then build all the drawers, and then put them in afterwards, just purely because of the weight. And here you'll notice the top two drawers have like a white plywood versus the bottom two drawers. Just there's no reason for that. I basically had some leftover white plywood that I wanted to use, and it was the same thickness. So the reason why it's not going to matter is because right here you can see I'm cutting up the cover sheets for those drawers, so they're all going to look uniform in the end, anyways. This is actually pretty tricky putting them on. You kind of have to figure out a way to hold them into place and make sure that the gaps on the left and the right and above and below the drawers are all going to be uniform. So you do have to really take your time. I use shims here to make sure that the gaps are even. Once I'd finished with those cover panels, I started on the doors for below and above those drawers. So this door panel that I'm working on now covers the wheel arch or the wheel arches because I do two of them. And essentially what I'm putting on here is these tiny little hinges because I didn't want to use like big door hinges on them. And I put it into place again. You got to shim it all into place. Make sure that it's even, or when you close it up, basically all the gaps around it look good. And I just screwed these directly into that MDF board on the bottom. And I wanted to, I don't know, make it look nice or make it operate nicely. So I actually added a gas strut here, which I probably wouldn't have done again just because it's a bit unnecessary because it opens down, not opens up, so you don't really need to hold it down. But anyways, it was a cool touch, I guess, and it operated well. So yeah, again, this was another tedious thing that I had to do. Well, not that I had to do, I chose to do this a difficult way. So as you saw, I was cutting up a little clip or a little, I don't know what you call it, like a toggle off a metal box, and I decided to use that on these um, on these cabinet doors just because I thought it looked a little bit retro. Now, all jokes aside, on the state of my garage, it's actually pretty bad. I'm definitely not proud of it, but it's yeah, it kind of reminds me of a quote that my friend he told me. I don't know where it came from, but he said that your workspace is an indication of your mind or your state of mind, I guess you should say. And as you can see, my state of mind was very cluttered or messy, and I could sit here and tell you it's because I have ADHD and all that, but there's no excuses. You gotta definitely work a lot cleaner than that. And I'd like to think that I don't work that messy anymore. This video I took this video a couple of years ago. Um, but yeah, definitely don't condone having a workspace like that. I know some people will be like, "Oh no, I know where everything is. Don't touch it." But when my space is like that, it really doesn't help my thought process and thinking and planning. So definitely that's a lesson that I've learned over time is that if you can organize your workspace or your work around you, it'll definitely, positively affect, your ability to think and plan out throughout the day and things like that. So here you can see I'm putting on these doors. Again, using those same little toggle, I don't know what you call them, toggle locks off these electrical boxes. And this top one here, again, same process, two hinges, that little toggle lock. And for this one here, I do end up putting on a gas strut as well. You definitely don't want to be, holding that door up whilst you're trying to get tools out and stuff like that. So this gas strut definitely came in very handy. So just some finishing touches here. I just cut up these little bits of wood from some birch plywood that I had, which is very strong, and I used them as little toggles so that I could, twist them basically like on and off to essentially stop the drawers from sliding out when I was driving. So it's all done now, and you can see, I think it turned out quite nice. I quite like the contrast of the black and white, and you can see all the drawer spaces there. And I think you would agree with me that it actually is a really utilitarian van here because, I still have all of the space for tools and screws and materials and things like that. But then you can see that couch there, or not the couch, the three-seater at the back there, which folds away and allows me to take an extra three people in the van. So I can use it for family, if I have to take, my family members with me. But also, if I want to just fold that seat away, I can still take, full size 24 by 1200 sheets in there. It's very, very handy. So I really quite like this design. However, I will actually be making another video with a completely different design as well. So let me know in the comments what you guys think I should do, and what additions you would have done, or things that you would have done differently. But thanks for sticking around and watching till the end. I'll see you on the next one.